I'm very excited. We have Magnus Buhrgard on the podcast with us today. And a little fun fact at the very beginning of this episode is that all three of us at one point in our lives, or maybe currently, did or do work for Ericsson. So it is kind of a little bit of a reunion in a sense. But we will talk about open source today, a little bit in the telecommunications context, and also diving into some of the business parts of open source as well. But before we do that, Magnus, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself, your tech background, and what do you do currently?
Thanks for having me. I have a master's degree in engineering physics. Then after that, I continued as a researcher at the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm in fiber-optical communication, which was great fun. I looked at all the aspects of sending light over fibers. But then at one point I was headhunted by Ericsson as an optical expert. So I got in there because at the time there was a lot of interest in optics or optical logic, also called photonics, where you thought that maybe you could switch photons instead of electrons, and you could also use optics as a backplane, because there were it was seen as a bottleneck in the equipment, the backplane and the speed of silicon. And at that time as well, there were other semiconductors like gallium arsenide and so on. But in the end, silicon actually held the ground. So that technology was explored further, and it's still the majority of electronics is in silicon. But at that time, we thought that it had reached its sort of end as a technology when it comes to speed and density. But that was not the case. So after a while, I moved on to broadband communication, and actually remember I made a presentation at the conference in Salt Lake City with a combined optical switch and a packet switch, so that you could utilize the speed of light and the sort of switch seldom, and then the versatility of electronics. So making a terabit switch. But it never came into production. It never came into a product. But it was great fun sort of exploring that area. Then I got into packet switching and routing, and I've always been at the front end of product development and at the CTO office. So either in a sort of early phases of the product or in the technology office. Technology scouting, standardization, technology cooperations with different companies. And then when telecom moved from hardware to software, I followed along. So I think I'm not the only one going that transition. And it's a sort of, telecoms has been around for a very long time, of course, and that for the most of that time, it was a sort of a very smart mechanical device that was sort of connected people all over the world. And it's amazing what you can do with hardware if you know exactly what service you want. Okay, so I've been a manager of different teams of experts in system and product management, and they're often distributed sort of geographically. So I've had team members in Montreal and Madrid and Budapest and all over the place. But the last 6 or 7 years at Ericsson, I was project manager for open source and standardization. and active in various organizations and initiatives. I was in IETF, in ETSI, TM Forum, ONAP, and ORAN, to mention some of them. And then 1 year ago, I got an offer to exit, and since then I've been an independent consultant. And I would say that I've always been interested in the mix of technology and logic and business and society and the human aspects, and how they interact and clash with each other. And I've met many managers and engineers and businessmen who rolled their eyes and thought that was sort of just stupid. Why don't you sort of divide them up? That will make life much easier. But I've never been good at making my life easy, so I've kept up with with that, and I think it is really interesting to see all of this, but it is controversial. Many engineers are sort of lawyers or business aspects and so on. That's boring. So that's in a nutshell who I am and what I'm doing.